We have the Bills visiting Texans, and the Bills just got embarrassed, and the Texans are kind of being embarrassed all year. Let's dive into this game, okay? So the Texans are at home. Their line has just been dancing all around like a little ballerina, but we'll get into all that later. What really matters is right now they're at +1 with the total being at 47.5. So the Bills, they got whooped. I mean, it was just kind of like the SpongeBob video of when I think it was someone stepped on plankton with their big shoe. That's the kind of whooping that they got. They got the kind of whooping where it's like you wake up the next day and you're like, wow, was I Miracle Whip last night? Because I just got whooped onto some bread. I don't know if that's how Miracle Whip works because I've never had Miracle Whip.
You can't have a pie without Cool Whip.
It's kind of like Stewie Griffin there, but doesn't matter. Let's digress. Let's dive back into the game. They had a terrific start to the season, the Bills. I mean, they came out guns firing, pew, 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 and they were going to do amazing things, but they just kind of didn't really play great teams. There also wasn't an expectation of them, so when the Bills were, I think it was, 3-0? Everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's just the Bills. That's Josh Allen, and the Ravens did smack him, like I mentioned. And there's also no doubt that Josh Allen is still the second best quarterback in the league. Yes, you have Mahomes, but besides that, it's still Josh Allen. When you have Josh Allen, there's a fighting chance. When the Bills were down by a lot, everyone's like, oh, nice. You got the Ravens. Way to go. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. You're playing against Josh Allen. He has an arm. He can throw the ball, and people are going to catch that football. But at the end of the day, they couldn't get anything going. They were clueless, kind of like when a child asks an adult the question, the adult knows the answer to the question, but they don't know it at all. And then the child's like, oh, wait, it's actually, this is the answer there. And the adult's like, oh, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. I want to see if you can get there by yourself. Which in reality, they had no idea what the answer was, and the child is actually smarter than the adult. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? I know I'm not. Look on the Texans side of the ball. There was a lot of high hopes. CJ Stroud looked invincible last season, and one of the main monsters coming into the season was Nico Collins. People were talking about Nico Collins, but they weren't talking about him that much because, like, ooh, Stephon Diggs is there. He's going to take up a lot of target share. Sure, Stephon Diggs is getting targets. He might be looked at as one of the top people on the team because he's one of the top people on the team. Looked at as a leader, but make no mistake, Nico Collins is the best receiver on this offense. He's so tall and big. He looks like a monster of a human standing next to the other NFL players who are monsters of humans. If Nico Collins was standing next to me, I would just look sad. There's no other way to say it. It's just like, aw. It's like seeing a little puppy next to a big dog. We just don't make sense. Which maybe it's like there's a funny buddy cop comedy we can do, but as of now, he hasn't signed on to anything and his NFL career is going well, so maybe we'll save that for retirement. CJ Stroud did look untouchable last year, but this year, not as much. We're seeing a lot of defenses mix up some things and he's struggling a little bit. They did beat the Jaguars, but the Jaguars were in that game for a lot longer than they should have been. The Jaguars honestly almost did win the game outright. It came down to the last seconds. The Texans are also 0-3-1 against the spread right now, so not really crushing teams, are kind of just more winning the games. The thing that's concerning me right now about the Texans is really more the health concerns than anything else. I think CJ Stroud's going to put it together, but we'll hop into their long list of injuries later because it gets a little scary. This line opened up Houston +1, and then from there I've just been dancing around. Kind of like if I lived near the equator, I'd be going above it and below it, above it and below it all the time just to be like, man, look how many hemispheres I'm walking in. That's how much the line has been moving, and it's all been within, I think it was like +1.5 was the deepest it got for the Texans, with the highest it got being -1. Also, no surprise, it looks like the public is backing the Bills in this spot to be a bounce back, with 25% of the tickets on the Texans, with 29% of the money. So we do like the fact that Houston's not Joe Public. Now, going into the injuries, the Bills don't have anyone to throw with to start. They did draft Keon Coleman, and I don't know why they only targeted him like 3 times, but they should be throwing to Keon Coleman way more often because he's sick. He had an amazing catch down the left sidelines. He did have a bad drop, though. So maybe that's why they're not throwing to him, because he had a really bad drop last game. But other than that, he's a rookie receiver. I mean, people are going to drop balls. That's the name of it. So the Bills already didn't have anyone to throw to, and Khalil Shakir was a great player who just kind of emerges, hey, this is now the Bills' top pass catcher. Well, guess what, Bills fans? He's out with an ankle injury, so that was fun while it lasted. It's going to be a major impact because Josh Allen already didn't have anyone to throw to. The fact that he emerged was kind of like, whoa, this is pretty cool. Now, was he because he's an amazing receiver? I don't know. I mean, he's an amazing receiver because he's in the NFL, but against Josh Allen might even be able to make me look like an amazing receiver. But it's just one less playmaker for Josh Allen. Now, on the other hand, for Houston, Tank Dell seems to be healthy. He has a questionable next to him, but it's kind of one of those questionables that's like, hey, since he still has projected points next to his name in fantasy, I think he's going to play. Now, Tank Dell is going to be another factor within this game because the Texans have 2 really good receivers. Nico Collins, we already discussed. Stephon Diggs, we all know. But Tank Dell was also like a really solid number 2. And the fact that he's their number 3 receiver, it just makes it for another option for CJ Stroud to pass it to. On the other end, they are starting Cam Akers at running back because Joe Mixon is injured. Now, Joe Mixon did just join the team, but his first game, he had so many touchdowns, and you're like, oh, wow, Joe Mixon's really good. There's also Dameon Pierce, but Dameon Pierce is questionable with a hamstring injury. So he may play, he may not play, he may play, he may not play, but having Cam Akers is a pretty big downgrade from Joe Mixon. So the running game might take a hit. So thinking about the main factors in this game, right? The quarterbacks. Josh Allen's obviously better than CJ Stroud, and the Bills defense is going to throw in some mixed coverages to kind of put CJ Stroud in his place. But I honestly think he has enough players now that he can just keep slinging the ball. And we've seen a lot of sharp line movement on Houston's side because it'll be like, okay, point half Bills, point half to the Bills, point half to the Bills, and there'll be 2-point swing over to the Texans. When I actually started writing out these notes, the Texans are +1.5. All of a sudden, they flipped to -1. So some sharp came in, absolutely hit them because it's not a gradual line movement. It was a sharp one, hence sharp. There's definitely something that the smarter guys in Vegas are seeing with this game that gives Texas the clear edge versus whatever I'm seeing, which is apparently is nothing. I have the Bills actually favored against the Texans, but I think the fact that it's home and maybe I've been overrating the Bills in my power ratings. With that being said, however, I'm just going to back the Texans in the spot. I think they have the playmakers. I think they're going to make football fun again, and I'm here to make football fun again. So lock it in, Texans, whatever they're at, as long as it's less than a 1-point favorite. So I'll take it at -1, and I'll take whatever they get as dogs. Wait until kickoff because I think the public's going to come in heavy on the Bills, especially if they are at +1. That's going to flip right back over to being the Texans as the underdog. Lock it in.